And here we go. Let's dive right into it. Um, the the setup getting ready to shoot this video, I thought about something that kind of like gave me a bit of insight regarding like where I am on my journey of growth. And I'm currently out in public right now, as you can see. I'm sitting on grass in what I consider to be a nice place. There are people around me, and that's actually what I wanted to talk about here because one of the most interesting things about this journey of being a YouTuber for me, it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, what it is that you're being a YouTuber regarding. If you pick up the camera and you press record and you say something, you're a YouTuber. Or you show something, like whatever it is. It doesn't matter. What matters to me is that it's happening, is that there's consistency, is that there's discipline, there's focus, there's some type of pursuit, and that's what I appreciate about it. And as I was walking here to this area, I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I used to like be kind of like weird about like doing a video in public. Um, and I'm happy to see my progress. I'm happy to see where I am now. Um, so something that I wanted to talk about in this video is I started a blog on my website, and this next Monday I'm going to be releasing a blog post. I would actually more so consider it to be like a newsletter kind of thing, but at the same time not. It's exploring topics to me that are very important, um, and that's cool. It's cool for me. I remember my level of excitement telling my sweetheart about this new endeavor for my website. Um, I want to make as many things on my website as possible. Um, just kind of like opportunities for people to be like, oh, what's going on over here? Oh, what's going on over there? That's what's important for me. So that's what I'm headed for. But yeah, one of the coolest things that I've been kind of like working on, that I've been writing about, is this idea of like unlearning, right? And it's kind of like veering away from your past and stepping into the power that is the potential of your future. And yeah, actually, I was watching a video that was talking about how like, if you continue to tell the story of your past, just like continue revisiting that and everything, you're only going to create more of that in your life moving forward. But if instead you start telling the future of your story from a very conscious and um, intended, I guess the word is, basically, it's consciously intended. Your future is being consciously intended. If you start telling if you start telling the story of all that kind of stuff, like, your life's going to unfold in a very specific and interesting way. And I think that that's very interesting because, like, think about all the people that are just stuck in a familiar past. They're stuck in a pattern that happened in the past, and they haven't broken that pattern. And because they haven't broken that pattern continues to, repeat itself, relive itself over and over again in their life. And so what they're going to be ultimately working with is a predictable future, right? Because it's a known, it's a familiar past, right? Like, it's coming from the known. So you're only creating more of what's already known because you're channeling the same energy into the future. And the way that you go about changing that is breaking your identity, not only identity, but addiction to the past. Because a lot of people, they don't realize it, but they actually have an addiction to the past. And, it kind of comes with like a victim mentality, a victim mindset. But if you want to create anything new, you have to unlearn everything. And that's just the way that it is. And for a lot of people, that's very overwhelming because, of course, identity. Whenever identity is involved, there's a level of kind of like comfort and familiarity that comes with it, and breaking that can be fucking devastating for people, even if it's not beneficial for them, even if it's not actually serving them. Like, their identity to the past, their addiction to the past could be bringing them great suffering, but because there's comfort and familiarity there, they stay. Like, think of it. Like, think about how fucking crazy that is. People will actually stay living a very specific way, that's not beneficial for them, simply because they're comfortable with it, you know? It's familiar for them. And so, like, if you want to create anything new in the future moving forward, you really have to start channeling in new energy. You know, you need, instead of the, you know, the low energy feelings of, you know, sadness and distress and worry and anxiety and everything, you know, you're trading those emotions for things like joy and ecstasy and peace and all that stuff. Like, things change when you change you. And instead of looking outside of yourself for things, for that fulfillment, you look inside. Because it all changes when you do. If you're looking for your life to change and looking for external influences to be the determining factor in your life changing, you're going to have a very hard time with life. Because, I mean, you might get something here and there, but it's not going to be consistent. It's not going to be long-term. It's going to be short-lived. It's going to be a scrap of pleasure, this, that, and the other, and it's not going to do a whole lot for you. So instead of focusing on what you need to change on the outside to be okay, focus on what you need to change on the inside for your experience of life to be okay. You know, remember that it's not anybody else's responsibility to make you happy. It's not your responsibility to make anybody else happy. And, you know, here's something else that I've been doing recently. And I've kind of, like, incorporated it into my daily meditations. And that is just kind of, like, telling the story of my future, right? And it works, you know? Like, there are elements of worth there, like, you know, like actually breathing in worthiness. Like, there are elements of that stuff. There are elements of all these different things. And when you actually sit inside of the energy of, like, you know, all right, just a brief example. Maybe you grew up with some type of trauma that led you to believe that you're not worthy of good things, right? However, that trauma was not yours to carry. It was just somebody else projecting their shit and their trauma and their insecurities onto you. But throughout your entire life, you believed that you were not worthy of specific things, and therefore you did not pursue specific things. So therefore you did not experience specific things. But when you come to understand that you are actually, when you come to understand that you actually are worthy and that you were never actually a piece of shit, it was just an idea that somebody else sold you, you can return it and get your refund back, right? Like, it's just, like, you need to understand that it's all about, you know, seeing everything in fine detail for what it actually is, and not for the illusion that has been sold to you, because there, you know, it's more likely than not that there is an illusion in play, and getting beyond that is the key here. You know, getting beyond the guilt that has been felt for eons, or the unworthiness, or the sadness, the this, that, and the other. Getting beyond all of that stuff and moving into future-based thinking, instead of telling the story of your past over and over and over again, which only brings you to experience more and more of the same thing. Start telling the story of your future. The only reason why it's hard for so many people to tell the story of their future is because what they might want in their future, they don't believe they're worthy of. So therefore, why should they even think about trying to pursue or achieve or acquire it? You see what I'm saying? So I just think that's very interesting. And now what I've been doing is, on top of the, you know, like, how much energy do I want to invest in this, I've also been doing a, like, nope, that's past based. We're thinking future based. We're thinking in terms of, you know, let's create and all that stuff, and it just changes everything. It's crazy how that works. So yeah, it's cool stuff. It really is.